People always say that you have to have money to make money, and that there's an extraordinary level of sacrifice on the road to success. So how is it that investors like us who didn't start out with much money and who don't rely on banks and credit, how is it that we can increase our income and build our wealth in a way that doesn't require us replacing one full-time job with another while still enjoying the things in life that matter most to us? That has always been the big question, and this podcast reveals the answers. I am Carrie Like, and this is the Investor Warrior. Hey everyone, welcome to today's live stream. I have with me Danielle. Oh, and I'm still Carrie Like and Danielle on live stream. So I'm representing both of us. So I've got Danielle Orville, and I also have our guest, Faria Rahman Ibrahim. Am I saying that correct?
You are. Hi.
First time. Awesome. Okay. So we're having Faria on the show today because she is a powerful woman in real estate. She is just shy of 500,000 square feet of retail and industrial space, and that's across 9 states. That's a lot. So we're going to get into your journey and how you started accumulating that much space. And some of the other things we want to talk to you about is your aggressive investment professional, weighing in on the rocket fuel behind non-conformity. You're also an immigrant to the U.S. You came here as a teenager, so that probably had its challenges and adversity. You now lead your company to national status, and you present on stages across the country, and you address the burning how questions. So this is everything that we're going to talk about on this show, and I can't think of anyone else more qualified than you, Faria, to talk about all this. So I also have with me my amazing, fabulous co-star, Danielle Orville, who you all know has now come to work with us in the Sherpa companies. And we're doing some really exciting things. And I'm just so excited to now have you on the show with me. So thanks, Danielle, to be on.
Yes. So today I'm really excited because not only are we in great company with Faria joining us from the New York metro area, but for those of you who don't know Carrie, the host of this show, also my friend, founder of the Sherpa companies, we are going to be jumping in here for just mighty real investment coaching. And if you don't know, she has been the investor of over 200 property acquisitions and transactions, all without the use of banks, credit, and very little capital out of pocket. My ever-talented friend and host, Carrie Like. So thank you for bringing us all on and bringing us here together. And for Faria, let's get into your background. So CEO, principal of Hudson Edge Real Estate, which is an investment firm focusing on value-add commercial properties, leading your company to the national status, using your expertise and innovation, turning underperforming assets into highly profitable enterprises, specializing in industrial, retail, and multi-tenant properties across 9 states, which Carrie led into. But then your background is in computer engineering and business administration and finance, demonstrating extensive expertise for over a decade, the CCIM designee and member of ICSC. So I'm going to let you get into all of that, what that means, presenting on stage.
Faria, like, how many abbreviations do you have after your name? I'm just curious.
But thank you. First and foremost, thank you, Danielle and Carrie, both for having me. It's such an honor, and I'm very humble for you guys inviting me to this. So just a little bit of my background. I'm really humble with all that you have said. They're very kind, but I'm just out there buying real estate really at the end of the day, right? So I was born in Bangladesh, which is it's in Southeast Asia. It's at the east side of India for those who may not be as familiar. And I did move here first when I was 6 years old. Then we did a little bit of back and forth until I settled here when I was about 12, 13. Yeah, I barely spoke English at that time, so there were their challenges, and parents were back and forth. But I got settled in. Coming from Southeast Asian background, going to either engineering or med school is kind of what's considered like given, especially if your parents worked hard to send you out here. So even though that wasn't my passion or that wasn't something I wanted to do, I did go ahead and just do, I guess, some kind of a security, to fall back on. So I did do my bachelor in computer engineering, which was a hot subject at that time when I went to school. And then I did, I always did also like fashion. So I did have my clothing line. So I did a bunch of
You got a
things.
clothing line. Wow.
I do, which,
Cool.
more of a hobby. I do still have it on the side.
I'm cheating.
And I got married and had my children right out of college. So I
And 3
had
children, right, Faria? 3 teenage daughters?
3 teenage girls now. But when of course, I had my twins first. So I tried to go back to work, but it was a little bit challenging with the two. Then I got pregnant with my third girl. So at that point, I wanted to find something that allows me freedom in scheduling, and that I can, of course, be a mother first. And so I was always interested in real estate, especially development side and commercial side of things really fascinated me. So I always wanted to get into that. But I started off in the beginning buying rental portfolios. So I was buying smaller rental portfolios, going into actually in Ohio. I bought a lot of portfolios with 10, 12 properties at a time, kind of like buying a whole pizza and slicing them in a pie and selling them individually. We did a lot of turnkey rentals. So I kind of partnered with a local company here who had an extensive buyers list that wanted turnkey rentals. So we were buying either with tenant, or if not, we placed tenant and then sold them individually or smaller packages. We were able to pick them up very low in pricing because we're buying like 14, 15 from the same seller, and then sell them 1 or 2 at a time to other passive investors, so to speak. That worked out pretty well for me and my partners that were involved. And from that, I did some uh, renovations here in New Jersey area. And then I started really getting into the commercial. So I started kind of exploring who I can network with to get into that. And I met Scott Schill from Commercial Academy that really gave me a intro to the world of commercial more. And I took it from there. So in the beginning, I was kind of trying out everything. I tried multifamily, mixed use. I think office I've pretty much tried. I've done a mobile home park with a partner there as well. And then I really, worked my way through to find my niche, which was retail and industrial. So past 3-4 years, have been really highly focusing on the retail and industrial. And I think one of the things is when you don't know what you're looking for, it's harder to find it. So when we figured out where to look for and what to look for exactly, it's easier to give that message to the brokers, to the sellers, or whoever to find those. So that's when things started picking up. And the thing is, I am in Northeast. I'm right next to New York City. It's challenging here price wise. It's a harder barrier to entry.
Yeah.
And being able to be part of Scott's mastermind team, we have members from nationwide. So I started seeing other markets where I can partner with others. So if I have boots in ground, we got a lot more for your bucks. So we started looking at Florida, Texas, and other states. So that's how we expanded into other states, not just Northeast.
How long have you been doing it from the time you started till today?
So in just real estate alone, like I started my and flips in 2014. But full time on commercial side, I would say more from 2018 is when I really focused more on commercial. 2017, I was looking into it still. I closed my first commercial deal in 2017, but 2018 on, I've been highly focused on the commercial side.
Mm-hmm.
So would
And
you
what,
say sorry, Carrie, the changing point was that when you started going to the commercial academy, because you this whole entire time you're in the New York metro area, right? When you say boots on the ground, you are still very home based there, but you are looking and learning all the markets in the other states. Is that right?
That is correct. I would say definitely a big motivating factor for me was the commercial academy. I was looking into commercial before myself. I just really didn't have the knowledge of the experience, or, it's just, and especially being able to go outside of Jersey, those things just wasn't in my thought process. I guess it just helped, like it just opened up a whole new window there.
mm-hmm.
Hmm.
That was exactly what I was going to ask. So Danielle, you read my
Not
mind.
surprised. Not surprised. We're like
Bad.
co-host lining up. So that's interesting, and it's funny, Faria, because as long as I've known you, we've known each other for a couple of years now, and something that I need to say, one of our very first experiences is Faria is not only is she great at building rapport and really getting to know you, but she truly is an expert in the field, like the finance, the numbers, breaking it down. Let me see the deal. Let me analyze it. And that to me is one of the most, the scary part, right? But I think that's a lot of your success has to do with your expertise and your knowledge. So how did you get from those initial residential to, okay, being able to raise 3 daughters, 2 of those being twins, having portfolios in 9 states, and being able to learn and study? Like, where does one begin?
Oh, that's a loaded question. So where I began, I would say started by networking. I started with like the local RIAs.
Right.
I went to every single, and I couldn't go to every single good one, because of course I was a single mother, so I had my children pretty much all the weeknights, and then we had RIAs on Tuesdays, and that was the day that their father had them. So I started going. I'm like, okay, I'll go to the ones that are on the days that I don't have my children. So I started going there. I started networking. I started building connections with realtors, local brokers, local lenders, local other investors that are doing well in the market. So I started picking their brains. I started trying to have lunch with them just to get ideas of what they're doing, how they're doing it. So that did help me to kind of, figure out where to start and what to do. More importantly, and then for the commercial, of course, Scott's team definitely helped. When I started networking with that mastermind group who really has the knowledge for the commercial. So that for me, going from the residentials to getting into the numbers of commercial, I think that really, really aided my experience. And also seeing, I guess naturally I was pretty okay with numbers. I would say I was good at numbers, but at the same time, understanding how to add value, and what to look for and what not to look for, what to avoid, all the pitfalls. Those I've learned from a lot of the members from the masterminds, because I was watching them. I was seeing their projects, which is a good thing. We have quarterly meetings, and we analyze everyone's deal, what's happening with them. So I was learning from their mistakes. I was learning from their experiences, and that I really was able to bring back to the brokers or the sellers. So when I would call a broker and tell them, hey, this is what I'm looking for, and he knew what I was talking about, or he heard me speak the language, that really helped stop I guess kind of establishing my experience, even though I had that many deals done at that point. But because I was learning from others' deals and other experiences, I really took that to them. And the brokers were even impressed with the fact that, hey, like, I haven't seen you do all this, but then how do you know? But I knew what to, again, we don't really know till you do it, but I know a lot more than I probably would have had I not learned from others. So I think it's really just the networking and being open to learn from others.
What are been the most challenging things in the commercial space for you?
Another loaded question.
We like to ask the big questions. Like, what's been the most challenging thing going from residential to commercial? And
I think
that
scaling, I mean, it's also, so if you are good at raising capital, it's not as challenging, I would say. It's of course understanding the terms and learning the differences of what to, because there's a lot more components on commercial. Also, the timeline is much longer because we see a lot of people starting commercial, and they feel like, within very short time, because, you could flip a residential a little bit shorter time wise, especially sell side of things, which I do have a wholesale side of my business as well, but in residential you can get a property under contract and just flip it in 2 weeks, or you have a cash buy. For commercial, there's a lot more that goes into it. You have environmental that you have to if there's tenants, of course we buy multi a lot of times, so of course it's not fully vacant tenants, then you have to go through the leases, the terms on the leases. If the lease terms, there's so many pitfalls on the terms that we have to really go through. For example, we just had a situation where one of the tenants, they had a right to first right of refusal, and we went on contract. Now the seller hasn't asked the tenant, and now we didn't know that they had that until obviously we reviewed the piece. But had we went ahead and closed it, they could have came, and clearly that would be on the title. So things like that, those little things, you learn as you do it, but there's a lot more component of, especially with the leases, environmental situations. And then the comps are comps, we know how to do comps for residentials, like what sold in the last 6 months. We do the same thing for commercial, but there's also for rentals, it's not per unit. It depends. If you're a multifamily, you look at comp per unit. If it's retail, we look per square feet. So there's those kinds of different criteria of commercial has different way of underwriting. So those little things we have to learn. So the challenge, I would say, it's a longer time. So, if as expected to, like, it will happen in 10 days or 30 days, it's usually a much longer period of time. But then again, it's more commas and zeros at the end of the day. So worth the wait,
So what's your average due diligence period when you go under contract with some of these properties?
We try to offer somewhere, again, of course, it does vary deal to deal, but on an average, the size that we look at usually buy somewhere between our sweet spot, somewhere between $1 to $5 million deals. We have looked at that are larger, and we had longer, and it's not always based on the price, but depend on the size or how complicated the deal is. We offer somewhere, I would say, about 60 days due diligence period, and then another 30 days to close. So somewhere between 3 to 4 months is when, by the time we get from under contract, we actually execute and close. It's somewhere between, I would say, about 4 months is an average.
Yeah. So everything about commercial is longer, from the acquisition, the due diligence, the renovation, the exit, like everything about it is just.
Yeah, and usually it's that, of course, the price. I mean, again, price, it depends on what you can get down, techniques, but if you can work out some finance, which is one of the very big tricks, are very, I would say, very advantageous that we have, like strategies that we use for seller finance. Now, I know in residential you could also use seller finance, but I think a lot of commercial owners, business owner, commercial real estate owners, at a certain stage, they are more open to holding note on a commercial. Like I have seen it, under my personal opinion, I've seen that happen more than I found it in residential.
Yeah. Yes, I agree. And so we're renovating an office building right now. Speaking of just longer periods of time compared to residential, where we can get a renovation done in a few weeks sometimes, we've been at this renovation for quite a while now because the permit alone we just finally got it issued, and we bought this a few months ago.
Right.
It took that long just to get the permitting to be able to finish what we want to do on this building. So yeah, the time is so different between residential and commercial.
Absolutely.
What's the biggest deal? I mean, what's the biggest project you've ever done?
So the biggest project size wise, I've done one that's 74,000 square feet. It is a industrial building in Dallas, Texas. Have that deal. So that's one of the larger ones. I've done retail structure. Well, so that's size wise larger. And then if we look at price wise larger, the biggest one I've done is a mall that we have under contract for 15 million. That is 121,000 square feet. We haven't closed on it yet. We initially backed out first time from the contract because after underwriting it several times, or after looking into the leases, what they presented us initially did not match with what the actual leases were, and then of course the numbers are very different. We went back and retraded, and what we wanted is not what the sellers want. So we got a contract, and the sellers just came back to us. So we'll see. we're still moving forward with that. But
So
yeah.
pause. 74,000 square feet industrial space and a $15 million under contract deal right now.
It's 15.
Like,
yeah.
Faria. This is like, it just sounds like it's just like, kind of like normal day-to-day in and out, but like this is incredibly large. These are enormous deals. And with us being like the Women in Investing series, I know this question you probably get so often with all of those big numbers. It just seems daunting. Like, how is it different? Because it's challenging being in commercial space alone, but how is it different being a female in the male dominated industry and navigating it, not only in getting the deals done, but being able to continue to build on the rapport and juggle all of those things in the air?
It's challenging time to time, of course. I think we might have discussed this before. One of the things that I was mentioning is non-conformity, right? Because we see a lot of I go to places like ICSC, which is International Council of Shopping Center. That's where actually all the tenants meet, tenants and brokers, and for retail. So if you have let's say you have a out parcel. So for example, the one that we're looking at, we have 4 out parcels in there. So the out parcels are the lots where we can possibly bring in, I don't know, Dunkin' Donuts, Starbucks, or Subway or something like that. So it's the lots, and we are shopping that. So you create a flyer, or you create some kind of a document with what you have available, and you can actually go to all the tenants and speak to, this is what we have. And the tenants are also there in their booths, having all the criteria where they can be. So, for example, they need at least 1 acre lot, or they need a frontage of 100 by 100, whatever it is that they require. And then they might need a traffic count of 15,000 minimum, or 40,000 median household. The only area they would go to. So they have their criterias. So ICSC is one of the events where you all meet. So that's like really the happening deal making spot for retail real estate. I bring that up because a lot of times, there's 40,000 members that show up there, and most are in their suits, and like a lot of male dominated. See somebody who's completely different. So you stand out. And a lot of the brokers remember me, and others, like other times that maybe I haven't remembered them, but then next year I see them, like, oh, we met last year. I'm like, okay, because you're probably one of many that very
right. You're more memorable.
Well, I think it's like your unique niche, right? So you've got to find sort of like a competitive edge. And if that's it, then it gives you the opportunity to have that further discussion, right?
It really does, and I think it really piques other interest. And I think I was gonna talk about this because I was reading last night, Carrie, this book, and I came across it where it says the Journal of Consumer Research found that people associate non-conformity with power. So I thought that was very nice because I mean, I'm not conforming to the same, very male dominated industry, but stand out. So I think it says that they showed people a photo of a bunch of men in tuxedos at a country club. All the men had black ties except one man who wore red tie. The people assumed that guy in red tie must be special, somebody, a top member of the club, or the winner of winner of more golf tournament, or just more creative.
Right.
So I
Because
actually
he stands out. He's different.
Josh Altman's book. But the idea is like, when you stand out, I think people just remember you or somehow treat more to, and then on top of that, if we do have, I guess, somewhat experience and knowledge, and if we can speak the language, then it really becomes memorable. So I've been, I look at it as an advantage that,
Yeah.
I mean, of course, yes, you have to prove yourself double. We know that being female in the industry, there's always we do have to work a little bit extra harder. But with that being said, I think being able to look at it on a positive note that, hey, I'm not just everybody you're seeing there, and you probably want to, it's easier to stand out.
Yes. I remember the first time I ever walked into a real estate event. I had signed up for our first coaching program. And I think we had a newborn. He was like 12 weeks old. So I was literally still breastfeeding. I was still in like the mommy, like just tired, like kind of frazzled. And I walked in and it was like all men in the room. And I'm like, oh my God, where are all the females? Like I felt so out of place. And I feel that, I mean, in residential, I feel like there are much more women than there are probably in the commercial space. So I can't imagine what it's like to walk into a commercial event because I only know how it felt like to walk into this event for residential. And I was like one of maybe 3 women in the room.
Yeah, I think it's changing. I would say at this last 3 years or so, even just alone with some of the commercial academy and some of the other commercial group that I'm part of. In just the last couple of years, I'm seeing a lot more female coming in, which is great. Started, I would say I was one of the very few female that was actually, unless they were doing it with someone else. But it definitely, I think we are taking over a little bit.
Yeah. I love too that you have 3 daughters that can see their mom doing what you're doing. You can go from having your own clothing line to walking into a room of a bunch of commercial investors to acquiring a $15 million property to being their mom. I mean, that you wear a lot of hats, right?
Do have to change from hat to hat, but I think it does empower them so much, and I'm very excited for them to hopefully join me soon. They are my twins are 16, and they are actually very interested in real estate. So I'm hoping they do join me soon. They have been coming to all my conferences. They're, I know, Danielle, you met them too.
They're there. They're negotiating. They're asking questions. They're listening. It was incredible. So much further ahead than when I was 16 years old.
Yeah, they're tough.
Not interested in real estate when I was 16. I didn't even know what real estate was.
They're learning, and I'm excited about that. Not my younger ones so much, but my twins are definitely very interested in getting into it. And I think that's probably one of the things I'm most proud of is that I didn't shy them away from it, because I know a lot of times when parents are involved in certain type of business, the kids just get a distaste. But no, my daughters are very interested, so that's, I consider, my biggest accomplishment aside from is, that this is what to me.
So Faria, do they come to you, because even people, women and men alike, that come to you wanting to learn, or your daughters, when they're talking to you, like, hey, what's the upswing on this? How do I make this happen? Are those even questions that your daughters are asking you? And the reason for my question is because I think that there's a lot of power and influence that you bring in, you're not able to just do it, which we touched on earlier, but you're able to educate it and walk them through what that looks like. And these are all the pieces that you need to understand if the numbers make sense for it to be a profitable property.
Yeah, I do get that a lot. Not, I mean, my daughters are still learning, but I do get that a lot from other members, some from the academy, from just around here, from areas or whatnot, especially on commercial side. A lot of my deals actually do come um, through other sources where somebody probably found the deal, but really didn't have enough experience as far as underwriting that. So I do help with the writing, and then potentially help closing the deal as well. Any kind of raising capital if I'm asked, of course, if that's something they want me to be involved in. I've had several individual who I helped. I wouldn't just say I helped, of course I've learned from them too, but they did find the deal, and I kind of guide them from step by step, from how to underwrite it to the closing. And of course I'm involved in the deal, and I've been on the debt of the deal. I guarantee the debt as well as them. So, because the experience on the debt side really does help. So those things I've worked with, and I did walk through several individuals. So some of my deals do come through from other members or other individuals that are trying to learn.
Right.
And in those deals, you're bringing them in as a partner where they get a percentage of the deal.
Yes, of course. So if somebody, and that partnership can vary. One deal that we're working on right now that is under contract to close hopefully in a couple of weeks. We had a couple of members that brought that deal to us who was more financial wholesale side, now switching over to commercial. So they are finder's equity instead of a finder's fee. That's what they chose. They wanted to have equity, so they're getting 5% on the deal. Yeah, about 5% on the deal, and then of course we're doing the rest of the work, but still they get to learn from step by step just by watching. Plus they found the deal. I have members that brought the deal and brought probably some equity into the deal, so they obviously have a larger chunk. So it really depends on what you bring into the table.
Yeah, that makes sense, depending on what they can offer.
Of course.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it could be just a deal in my backyard that's, somebody found it who probably doesn't live here or is not so experienced in this market. And, or maybe somebody does a lot more multifamily, but not so much industrial or retail. So I do get a lot of those deals come to us.
Yeah. What's your main exit strategy? Is it to hold, or is it to sell? Is it to take capital and put it into bigger projects? What is your plan?
Or develop? I know developing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it depends still per deal. Ideally, we like to hold. I know one of my partner and we prefer holding, but again, it depends on what's happening. So for example, one of the deal we are going to market with right now, we initially didn't intend to sell it. Our idea was to refinance and then pay off our investors and then just hold for cash flow. But given what's happening in the market, we're predicting we're trying to go to market sooner than we expected. So we do study the market, and depends on what kind of building there's some we're just not gonna sell because we just know that market's going to appreciate over time no matter what. So it really depends deal per deal, and what location. So a couple things we look at is the condition of the building, if it's a metal building or is it something in a structure. So those things we all factor in order to determine the exit. Also, if it's the proximity, so if it's in my backyard, I would like to hold it longer or hold it completely, or if it's one of my partners located in Florida, so if it's in his backyard. So we kind of figure out depending on the deal. So it's not one size fit all strategy.
Yeah. And have you started to get into development as well?
I have recently started getting into the development. We haven't completed one. I've done some residential ground up, but as commercial goes, I've been working for quite some time on a project in Brooklyn, which is a very large project, but we don't.
Your backyard.
Yeah, again, of course, it's in my backyard. So I'm looking into a couple of things in the city. They're very large and very competitive projects. Don't have it under contract yet, so I can't Well, it talks so much more, but they're very large, around the over 50 million in project size. But you know,
Mhm.
with very big sharks in the city, they're third, fourth generation, and all cash offers versus we come in with high capital costs, so it's very hard. But we've been able to build very good relationship with the seller. So if the other party can't perform, they did promise a deal. So we'll see. So that is, I'm kind of excited about this. This is a very large project, and it's mixed use. So we'll have the downstairs, and then multifamily on the top. And then I'm working on a little bit smaller multifamily also in New York. So that's about the building.
Mhm.
An apartment. Well, initially, the developer who initially bought it wanted to build apartment, but we are considering converting it to condos. We'll knock it down
Yeah.
to condos we're looking at. So it's hopefully market's a little shaky, so we're very skeptical of how to take next steps.
Yeah. Yeah. You are in a very competitive market. So how do you navigate that? I mean, you're in a very competitive market. You're in a high priced market.
Like every adversity challenge piece is
You're probably in one of like the toughest markets for big projects because, like you said, there's so many people there that this is also their backyard and they've been doing it forever and they've got the capital behind them. I mean, you're competing against like Donald Trump, basically, right? In some areas.
Or bigger, yeah, and it is very tough, and which is why I initially my very first deal I was looking here, and it was very challenging to compete, and which
Mhm.
to other markets that are much easier to navigate. But now again, I guess it has a lot to do with my personally, my daughter's now older and we want to, and the traveling just getting to me, honestly, a little bit. So I do want to really ultimately build here in my backyard. And I think now a little bit more years under my belt and a little bit more experience under my belt helps a little bit to, present our offers. Because in the beginning, of course, without having experience, now I'm competing with somebody who has their years was much tougher. So now I think being able to communicate with the sellers a little bit more, they do have more faith in us. That helps. With that being said, we're still, it's just really getting your out there and building your brand, which is what I'm working on. It's still very challenging. There are members in the like there are offers that are going in a negative cap, and I can't compete because it's probably they're probably building this for their third generation, and they have been set like with their past generation. So there's like generational wealth in the city that hence I can't compete with offers like that. So we go for the ones that we can, and it's really we're building networking and building relationship with the sellers, really motivated sellers. There are that are you just keep following up and they just know that you really want it. And yeah, you just do the best stuff what makes sense, and ultimately it's the number game. If the number doesn't work, it doesn't make sense. So
Yeah.
Do you find that the more face-to-face meetings that you have with those individuals allows you more the opportunity to influence and ask the right questions because the more they're around you, the more they recognize your skills and capabilities? Or is this something that's done more phone calls, emails, behind the scenes that you don't really ever get to see day in, day out?
I think with sellers, face to face always, always, always trumps any other means. I mean, you can always talk if there's no other way over the phone or Zoom call or any kind of video conferencing. But at the same time, when you are at the property with the seller, there things come up, you can get answers right away, and they understand that what you're at. Their mindset changes. They get more that but you can't close, and it's always for me personally meeting the seller in person always helps better. So if they're ready to do that, I would absolutely do that at any time.
Now, how about with capital, Faria? Because one of the things I think that we should revisit that you touched on earlier is if you're good at raising capital. How does one begin good at raising capital and asking for big dollar amounts with lots of zeros? Of course, the negotiations that go with it, but what does that even landscape look like?
So for it is, it's a little bit intimidating, of course, because not only you're asking for capital, even if you are to have, if somebody does invest in your project, you also have to make sure that, it's other people's capital. You have to make sure you're doing your best to give the return you promised, or you can't really promise an exact return, of course, but you're performing your best. So it is a lot of definitely for me, I think, we always give our investors interest first, so that's a given. But as far as where to start, I would say start small. Start small with the smaller number of raise, and partnering, which helped me was I partner with individuals who are very good at raising capital, and because I've been in their deals, I've learned how they did it, and shadow them, so to speak. And then once you have a good portfolio, then investors start trusting you more because they've seen you turn around and being able to stabilize and give return. A lot of our investors are repeat investors, so that really absolutely helps.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I think just thinking of my own journey starting out, like we all have to start somewhere, right? And when you've never done a deal before, you don't have a track record to show people. And so when I first started out, we went to hard money. I had to use some of our own funds in it, had to use like borrow money from friends and family to cover down payments. And that's where we started. And we paid like out so much interest, right? On those deals. But I had to start somewhere. And so that's where we started. And I think what was helpful for me was getting the word out about what I was doing and not keeping it in. So I would tell people about the deals we were doing and about how we funded it. And then one day someone just called me and said, "Hey, I'd like to fund the next deal. Like, it sounds like you did a really great job on that last deal. I heard you talking about it. It was either on a call or at a meeting." And they were like, "I could get you much better returns if you use my money versus the hard money." And that's how I got started, was just getting the word out there about like what it was that we were doing. And then that led to one private lender, which led to two private lenders, which led to a handful of private lenders. And now we are also getting into the bigger number projects. And it's almost like we're having to start again, building up that portfolio now that we're tapping into different industries. But you have to start somewhere. And like you said, like if even if it's partnering with someone who has the capital and sharing in the deal, start there.
Yeah. I think especially in the beginning, it definitely helps to partner with individuals who knows that market, knows that industry, knows that criteria. So you have to be strategic partnership. You, like, for example, if I'm gonna partner with someone that's doing industrial, or if I'm looking into an industrial deal in Florida, I would like to partner with somebody who has that experience in Florida, in that market, in that property. So it has the investor base. So it always helps that.
Yeah. Well, this is awesome. We're coming up to the 2:00 hour, and I know you have kids to go pick up from school onto your next job of the day. So if people want to connect with you or get in contact with you, Faria, where is the best place for them to do that?
You can always email me if you want. I don't know if I can send it on a chat, but my email is Faria, my first name, which is Faria at HudsonEdgeLLC.com. So that's
Edge is EDGE.
Yes, it's like the Hudson River. So Hudson Edge LLC.
So while Carrie's putting that in the chat, Faria, so in all of your experience, kind of wrap it up, put a bow on it for learned experiences. I think that you have a lot of insight to kind of close this out. If you could give a closing on this, what would you say?
Put a bow on it.
So one of the things I would say is go in your own pace, because we live in social media era. We see everybody's doing everything perfect, and we want to compete. We want to skip the steps and go to what everybody else doing. But do it on your own pace, I would say, and first figure out what your own goal is, what's best for you and your family, where you see yourself. And I think once you have the direction to that, then start with where to go, because in the beginning, I wanted to jump and get to the top of everything. And I don't know if that was a right step. So I think, learn on your own pace. It's not a competition against others. It is more of, you compete with yourself every day, make yourself better. So, and also educate yourself, you have to educate yourself so you make less mistakes. And we have to watch the market, what's happening. So just not only knowing the education as far as the actual properties and actual underwriting and those, but also what's happening in the market is very, very important. Where we're heading as far as our economy goes, those things factor in very, very much. So not just, so we not only the same way we evaluated deal 3 years ago, not the same way we're doing it today, just because what's happening with the interest course, valuation of everything. And study your market, study your locations, where you are investing, and just be cautious of what's happening.
Where that is fantastic. So everybody who's listening, good luck catching Faria in the rest of Q4, because she still has, drumroll, 5 countries to be in for the remainder of this year. So
yeah, you do travel a lot.
Yeah.
This really coming back from COVID. This is the first year back, so I've been I've been to several.
And so where are you going for the rest of the year? What are these 5 countries?
So I'm going to Bahamas in 2 weeks. That is a real estate retreat, and then I'm going to Germany, Switzerland, Turkey, and well, we might or might not go to Spain. So.
Okay. And your daughters get with you? They travel with you?
They are traveling this. Yes.
Yeah.
So mine and Faria's conversation the one day, I called her up for her birthday in March. Hey, happy birthday. How are you? And she's like, hey, I'm going down to Florida for a conference. And this is before I lived here. And she's like, do you want to go? And I was like, sure, I'll get a plane ticket. I'll join you.
All over the place.
So, well, thanks, Faria. Cool. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Faria. All right. Thanks, Danielle. And we will see you guys on the next episode. Thank you all for tuning in. And remember, you are only one deal away. Take care.